Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dugout Daily. I'm Charlie, and I'm joined by Dan once again. This time, we are reviewing the match where Manchester City turned up the heat in the Premier League title race on Wednesday by taking apart Fulham in the first half to close the gap on leaders Arsenal to just 3 points, with Semenyo opening the scoring in the 24th minute before providing the assist for O'Reilly's strike in the 30th minute, and Haaland rounded off the first half blitz with a goal in the 39th minute, courtesy of Phil Foden's assist in a dominant 3-0 win at the Etihad Stadium, as Fulham have now lost the last 20 meetings against City. How are you, Dan, mate?
I'm very good, thank you very much.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Job done tonight. That's all that matters. The decisive damage came in a quick-fire first-half sequence with 3 goals in 15 minutes. Antoine Semenyo opened the scoring in the 24th minute as he poked home from close range after a miscued clearance by Fulham's Sander Berger for his 5th goal in 8 games since joining City in January. He then assisted Nico O'Reilly 6 minutes later, who finished deftly over advancing keeper Bernd Leno to make it 2-0, and Erling Haaland sealed the points as he scored his first Premier League goal from open play since December, as he scored City's 3rd with a precise low finish, which was assisted by Phil Foden in the 39th minute. All goals came in the first half, as mentioned there, and City have now scored 30 first-half goals in 26 Premier League games this season, which is more than any other team. What were your thoughts on the first half, Dan?
First half was brilliant. I mean, that's exactly what you want to see in a team that's fighting for the title. I think that was brilliant. I think the way that we pressed, the intensity we showed going forward, we were winning every second ball. We were creating chances. We just looked really good, and even if we weren't creating chances, we were creating space. We were looking really, really good in that first half. Obviously got the goals done, pretty much got the job done.
Yeah.
It was a really impressive display, and I think if we carry on like we did in that first half, there is no doubt that we will probably win the title.
Fingers crossed. City are now firmly back in the Premier League title race, having responded strongly after we started 2026 with 4 league games without a win by securing 3 wins in our last 4 league matches, with the only minor setback being a 2-2 draw at Tottenham after being 2-0 up. This win extended our unbeaten home run to 12 league games, and we have earned 32 points from a possible 39 at the Etihad this season. Make good reading that, doesn't it, Dan?
Yeah, I think the home form this year has definitely been really strong. I think it always has been, to be fair, from what I remember. I think, there's obviously been a few poor performances in there, but, that's going to come over the course of the season. We say poor, that was a draw to Brighton, a draw to Chelsea. And obviously a loss to Spurs at the start, but apart from that, I don't really see. We are really strong at home, and we are very rarely beaten at home. So but it has to be like that. If you are going to go and push on, win titles, win trophies, and go deep into the Champions League, your home form has to be pretty much perfect.
Yeah, another big thing for us is we've basically played all the top teams at the Etihad so far, apart from Arsenal, of course. Beat Liverpool, beat United, drew to Chelsea, of course lost to Spurs, but they're crap this season. Got Newcastle in a couple of weeks, who are in the Champions League as well this season. I think I've covered all the Champions League teams there, of course, apart from United. They're sat at home with their passports in the draw every midweek. City are now unbeaten in 56 midweek encounters in the league, with the last loss being in 2010 against Tottenham. Fulham have now suffered 3 consecutive defeats and extended their losing run against City to 20, which is the longest one-sided run in English football history, with 17 of those being league games. Of course, a couple of months ago, it was a a frightening 5-4 win for City. The run could have ended there, but it didn't. And tonight was a lot more comfortable, weren't it, Dan?
Yeah, it really was. Obviously, I thought you could never be comfortable with what happened and how poor they looked in the first half in December. And considering to how well Fulham came back, I thought you can't take the foot off the gas. But, I think, they played fairly well, I think, as City did. We got the job done. We had the ability to just be able to cruise into that second half. Obviously, bar hopefully Haaland, there's no injuries picked up over there.
Yeah.
We're starting to look a lot better in terms of the squad depth that we're bringing through. Players are getting minutes. Players are getting rested. It's good to see players like Bernardo Silva get a rest or Foden to get a start. I thought Foden's performance tonight was one that was needed as well. So, yeah, really happy.
Yeah, and I noticed tonight the bench is getting a lot stronger. You've got the likes of John Stones, who miraculously made a recovery from some sort of thigh injury in December. Kuchinov was on the bench tonight. You had Trafford, Ake. It was a strong bench tonight. The only real, academy players, should you say, I'd call specifically the latter crap, were Max Elaine and Rico Lewis. On the bench tonight, you had Marmoush, Kuchinov, Reinders, Gonzalez, and Shirky all come onto the pitch. That is quality coming on and off the pitch, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah. I think, to have that in your resources again, I think that's probably where we've struggled mainly. Look at that run that we went on in January. I do think that was mainly down to the fact that we were down to the bare bones of the squad, giving players that I don't think specifically were fit in those games minutes. So to have a fully fit squad back, hopefully it's not too late, but now is definitely the time in this running in both Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup will start getting a bit tougher if we progress, that is. We've got the League Cup final. You need depth, and I think with that coming back into the squad, it's perfect timing almost for a title race if Arsenal had to slip up soon.
Well, fingers crossed. It could be tomorrow night. Of course, Nico O'Reilly and Antoine Semenyo have both said they'll be watching the game tomorrow, as will we. Fingers crossed, Brentford can do a job for us. Looking at Fulham now, of course, Brentford's West London rivals, they're now 12th in the Premier League, and Marco Silva has lost all 14 of his Premier League meetings as a manager against Manchester City across his spells with Hull, Watford, Everton and Fulham. They're not great stats for Fulham, are they?
No. I don't exactly think that Fulham were expected to win tonight. No. I thought the only hope that their supporters would have had is they did have a fairly decent performance up at the Swamp a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
If they'd have brought something like that and maybe troubled us, maybe tried to get that point or something like that, would have been a massive result for them. But yeah, I just think with City in the mood that they would be after beating Liverpool at Anfield on Sunday in the fashion they did, the psychological boost that'll come from that, that must really have the morale quite high. They'll be really confident going into that game. And I don't think there was really any part of that game where I thought that we were in specific trouble. I thought it was a fairly easy win for us.
Yeah, definitely. Next up then, it is time to look at our predicted teams compared to the lineups that started the game and the player ratings. So City's team was as follows. It was Donnarumma in goal, a back four of Nunes, Diaz, Guehi and Aït-Nouri, with Rodri, O'Reilly and Bernardo in midfield, Foden on the right, Semenyo on the left with Haaland up top. I got 10 out of 11. I said Shirky would play instead of Foden. Dan got 9 out of 11. He said Gonzalez would play instead of Rodri and Shirky would play instead of O'Reilly. What was your thoughts on the team when it came out, Dan?
When it came out, very interesting. I thought I was quite happy with the team. I don't really think he could have gone wrong with that. But yeah, I thought there were certain players. I'll name it. I thought Rodri really deserved a rest after this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought O'Reilly probably deserved a rest. He's started to really clock minutes back up. You can't overplay players either, but he's starting to rotate. And I suppose if you look at it in hindsight, we've now got Salford on Saturday, which a lot of players are going to be rotated for, if not the full 11. And then we've got a week off before a struggling Newcastle turn up late on a Saturday. So there's plenty of time to rest between games now.
Definitely. And the Fulham team, Sportsmold, got 9 out of 11. Their team was Leno in goal, a back four of Tete, Anderson, Bassett and Semenyo, with Berger and Iwobi in midfield, Wilson on the right, Chukwueze on the left, with Smith Rowe behind Jimenez in attack. They said Robinson would play instead of Semenyo, and Chukwueze would play instead of Bob. The main threat really for Fulham was Harry Wilson, but he didn't really do much tonight, did he, Dan?
No, I did think that in the second half. I think the first half. I thought Fulham, they looked lost because obviously their talisman. He was missing in a way. Everything has to go through Harry Wilson. You can see that. You can see he's good enough.
Yeah.
I thought, but he really didn't want to be dropping deep, and I thought City utilised that space quite well because he didn't want to be tracking back. So Nunes had plenty of space, which was their big issue. But I think once in the second half, once Wilson did start tracking back, he dropped into deep spaces. He controlled their possession, similar to like Bernardo Silva does for us. He just keeps that ball. He kept that ball ticking over. They obviously had a lot more control in that second half. I think their team was it was average, I suppose. I think their defensive performance was shocking, really, in the first half. We had so many chances. On another day that could have been probably 5-6-0. However, I was quite impressed as the game progressed with Fulham, with their attacking play. I thought that Wilson did create a few chances. There was one, I think, was it just before half time that I think they missed an absolute sitter. So there was definitely goals in the game for them, but obviously no properly clear cut chances. I think there was only a limited amount, and if you don't take your chances at the Etihad, you're not getting a result.
Yeah, you're in for a long day. Next up then is the player ratings. So, as previously mentioned, it's time for our player ratings, of course, start in net, work our way up, and we're going to talk about all the subs that came on tonight. Starting with the keeper then, of course, was Gianluigi Donnarumma. What was your thoughts on his performance, Dan?
Yeah, he had a few decent saves. Didn't really have much to do. I thought his distribution was, I don't know, he was on the weaker side today, to be fair. He did lose the ball a few times. But then again, I'm always one that I'd rather my keeper be saving shots than pinging the ball 70 yards. So, I thought he was standard. Didn't do anything wrong, really. Kept a clean sheet. You can't really ask more from the man. Give him a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll give him a 7. He didn't really have much to do. Clean sheet, always a bonus as well. Moving over to right back then, of course, Matheus Nunes. What was your thoughts on his performance, Dan?
Yeah, solid. He was all right. Didn't really have much to do. He pushed up quite well in that first half when we looked, in that first half we looked so much better. We looked so much fresher. We looked like we're creating chances, and that's where Nunes pushed up into that empty space. And I thought he did quite well on that side. But then the second half came around and he just didn't really do too much. I'd give him a 7.
Yeah, of course. Got rested with half an hour to go as well, which is always a bonus. Yeah, I think he was okay. He did his job, and a clean sheet as well. Always a bonus for a defender. I'm going to say a 6.5. Moving to the two centre backs, then starting with Ruben Diaz. In the first half, he won the joint most duels with 4. What was your thoughts on his performance, Dan?
Yeah, he was all right. I think just the start. I mean, we're growing used to this now, but a standard Ruben Diaz performance. I mean, this is a great sign. With when we say players' standard performances, it's all growing, it's all getting better. I think Diaz, obviously, he's only just come back from injury. It's good to see him get minutes tonight. I thought he was really solid. I give him a 7.
Yeah, I'll give him a 6.5 as well. His standard performance, of course, is one of the highest ceilings within the squad, and he was solid. He was solid. Moving on to his partner, then, who is actually my man of the match tonight, Mark Gahey. He completed the most passes with 96 and won the joint most duels in the first half with 4. I'll start with this one. I'm going to give him a 8. I thought he was brilliant. I think he got in the way of everything. Didn't put a foot wrong, I don't think, either. And as said previously, he's my man of the match. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, he's definitely up there with the man of the match contender, 100%. He's a revelation coming in January only for 20 million as well. I know I reported we're paying him £4 million a week, but look, he's worth it. He's so good. He's just there every time that you need him. He is the definition of clutch, really. Every time that they get into an attacking position, we saw it at Anfield, we saw it again today. So many times he's just there. And I think, it's not just that he brings to the team. I think his leadership's definitely going to make a difference. He definitely looks settled already, which, for a player that's just joined 5 minutes ago is ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's fitting so well. What a signing he has been. I'd give him an 8.
Yeah. Moving over to left back, and I've been impressed with this man again. I've been impressed the last few weeks as well. Of course, we're talking about Ryan Aït-Nouri. He completed the most dribbles with 2, the most tackles with 5, and won the most duels with 9. What do you think about his performance, Dan?
Yeah, he was quality. I think he'd probably be up there with my man of the match. I think. Look, I've not always been his biggest supporter over the last few weeks. I think I've called for him to be dropped a few times. But I just think from what I saw at Wolves, he was shaky defensively and whatnot. But I think these last few weeks he's come in like wow. He has definitely silenced any doubts that I or hopefully any other City fan has. He's been quality. Aït-Nouri is fantastic, and tonight was no different. I thought he was absolutely knackered by the end, which again could be a good sign. He's obviously had a lot of minutes, but yeah, he's been brilliant. I'd give him an 8.5.
Wow, I'd give him a 7.5. He was solid, especially on Sunday. I thought it was probably his best performance in a City shirt at Anfield. Slight drop off from that, but that's to be expected. Moving into midfield, then the first man we will talk about is Bernardo Silva. He played an hour. Of course, always nice to get a bit of a rest, and as you previously mentioned, it's a good sign. And he created the joint most chances with 2. What was your thoughts on his performance, Dan?
Yeah, he was Bernardo. He's always quality in it at the minute. I think he struggled last season, which is thrown a lot of people off due to his age. But I think he's definitely this season. He's come back and really shown who he is, the captain of the club, etc. He was brilliant tonight. He just controls the play. You just feel calm. If we're ever under pressure and you find the ball at Bernardo's feet, you're calm. I think if I was the club right now, I'd be giving him a contract extension in the morning.
Definitely.
And hopefully they will. But tonight he was really impressive again. It's a standard Bernardo performance, which is probably a lot better than most players in the world. So, I'd give him a 7.5.
Yeah, I'd agree. Bernardo Silva is probably our most important player at the minute. So yeah, I'll give him a 7.5 as well. I'll agree with you there. Moving to one of his partners in midfield, then Rodri. He played 70 minutes tonight. What was your thoughts on his performance?
Yeah, quite. I mean, I was impressed again by Rodri. Look, you've just got to be honest. He's not going to be the player that he was in the 23-24 season. It's going to take time. But tonight he's even at 60%. He's still very good. He didn't exactly have to push himself too much. But I thought just the way that he was so influential, winning those every second ball. He was there, with tackles. He was there. He just reads the game so well, even if he's physically not as good as he used to. I'd give him a 7.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. I'll give him a 7. And as you mentioned, not a fully fit player at the minute, and he's still starting every week. It shows how good he is. And the final player we had in midfield tonight, Nico O'Reilly. Again, impressive performance. I'll go first with this one as well. I'll give him a 7.5. Of course, he got the second goal as well. It's an absolute crime if Thomas Tuchel doesn't have him in his starting 11 in the World Cup, in my opinion. What was your thoughts on his performance, Dan?
Yeah, I think he's as you stated, he has to be in the England squad. I think his quality at the minute and his form, I don't think there's many players on better form than him in the league or maybe even the world. It might be a big claim, but I think that, he is just, he's unplayable at the minute at times. And you see it today, I know he was a midfielder in the academy and he'd been playing up in the midfield at the minute.
Yeah.
But, considering that you could also have him at left back and just the way he could make that run or did make that run today, his finish was absolutely exceptional. To think he's only 19 years old is absolutely ridiculous. I think, he is absolutely brilliant. Again, another contender for probably one of my man of the matches. I'll give him an 8.
Yeah, I'll give him a 7.5 as well. Solid performance by Nico O'Reilly again. Moving into the front three then, starting with Phil Foden. He played 70 minutes and created the joint most chances with 2. We said in the preview this was a big game for Foden tonight. Do you think he steps up?
Yeah, I think he was a lot better tonight than he has been in the past. And I think even in the past few games, you see Foden, he gets those chances. He's just not falling for him. He had that chance the very start of the game. If you recall, he sent a few defenders, and then you didn't have the momentum to be able to put a full shot off, and he didn't go in. He also had one where I think he passed where he probably should have had a shot as well.
Yeah,
but I think a confident Foden would probably bury that.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think it's just building now. It's just the little steps, each step taken at a time. With Phil, you just got to make sure he's back up to his best. I'd give Phil the 6.5.
Yeah, I'll give him a 7. I think it was okay. Of course, he got an assist for Haaland's goal as well. Moving to Haaland then, of course, he only played 45 minutes tonight. It looks like he's got a bit of a knock. Thankfully, we're only playing Salford at the weekend, so I'd be surprised if he played anyway, even if he was fully fit. He's now City's joint 4th all-time highest goal scorer on 153 goals, the same amount as Colin Bell, and he netted his 22nd Premier League goal of the season and 8th in 8 games against Fulham. What was your thoughts on his performance, Dan?
Yeah, I just think that's what we do. He's fine. It sounds mad, doesn't it? But I think this is just what we expect from him. I know he is a very, very big player. But yeah, this is sort of what he does. I think his goal scoring record is absolutely outrageous. He's only been here what feels like a couple of seasons. 5 minutes ago he was just signing, and to be on 154 goals in 3 seasons, 4 seasons is ridiculous. Yeah. Most players don't even get that in a career playing as a striker.
I know.
So to think that he can do that at one of the biggest clubs in the country is just it just says it all. Yeah, Haaland, absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, tonight he was good. I thought not just his goal scoring, but I thought his link up play was decent tonight. Him and Semenyo work quite well physically against their two centre backs. I think that's definitely a duo to be looking forward to.
Definitely.
In the running, is that those two will definitely help us dictate attacking play. I'd give Haaland a 7.
Yeah, I'll give him a 7 as well. Of course, getting a goal always helps your rating. And the final starter, Antoine Semenyo, as you've just mentioned there, he's become the first player to score in each of his first 2 home games for City in the Premier League since Kevin De Bruyne in October 2015. He had the least touches of any outfielder to play 90 minutes with 23, lost the most duels with 8. He scored his 5th goal in 8 games since joining City and has now got 17 goal contributions in the Premier League this season. What was your thoughts on his performance, Dan?
Yeah, well, Semenyo, I thought he was probably one of his better performances in a City shirt tonight. I mean, as you say, about the record, scoring his first 2 games at the Etihad, he's not in bad company there with Kevin. So if he's anything to be like Kevin, anything, even a fraction of what he was like, he'd be some player.
Definitely.
So let's hope that this form continues. I think it will. I think this is only just the start of him. I think we've been crying out, really, haven't we, for a goal-scoring winger. I think that's what we've really struggled with, especially last season, the season before. You've got Grealish, who doesn't score, Doku, who doesn't score or didn't score. Semenyo as well. He's come in, just doesn't really offer any end product. So to add a winger that's scoring goals and assisting is brilliant. And not just that, I think his physical attributes are massive. Probably bigger than his goals for us, because in that position that he's now playing, him and Haaland are sort of sharing that striker role.
Yeah,
they both sort of play as wide strikers, and obviously I think Semenyo physically has really surprised me. I didn't think he was that big.
No, never before.
And his strength to go toe to toe with probably the majority of the centre backs in the league is brilliant, and all of that. You add his technical ability into that, again, fantastic. We have some player on our hands here, and if he's used correctly in the future, we could be looking at a serious player here.
Definitely. Moving on to the subs then. I'm not sure if I mentioned there, but I'll give him a 7 tonight. Goal and assist is always a bonus as well. First sub we'll talk about, Omar Marmoush, played 45 minutes and was the most accurate passer to play at least a half with 100% passing accuracy tonight. What was your thoughts on his performance, Dan?
Yeah, I think this is where we hit the first negative of the team. I think, look, Marmoush, he's a brilliant player, and that's not to be discredited to him, but I think tonight, it's definitely not his fault, but in that second half, I think the second Haaland went off, I thought all intensity went, and this is definitely probably not Marmoush's fault, but you also can't ignore the fact that the second that Haaland went off, there was sort of no big number 9. Yeah. There was no physical presence up front. I think, with Semenyo dropping back a bit, I think Marmoush is a weird one because he's a striker, but he's just he's never in that 9 position. He's always out on the wing with someone.
Yeah.
And I think that just doesn't suit us at all in certain games. It's like tonight, they have a pretty physical back line. If they bring one of their centre-backs out to mark him, which they did, he didn't really get much luck with anything. He didn't really have much of a chance to score, which is a striker you're ultimately there to do. His passing obviously is a brilliant add-on, but it was poor tonight from him, and I'm sure against Salford he'll probably play and score a hat trick, maybe look really silly, but I think it's a poor, and I think we really have to watch these sort of performances from him going into this summer period where at the minute we've not got a lot going on. So that could also be one to watch at his age, his price. that could become a talking point definitely in the future. I'd give him a 5.
Yeah, I'll give him a 5.5. I don't think he was good at all tonight. And then coming on with half an hour to go was Abdulkadir Kushinov and Sejani Reinders. We'll start with Kushinov. What was your thoughts on his performance, Dan?
Yeah, I thought he was decent. Obviously, he had the scare at Anfield where he was pretty much knocked out cold for 10 seconds. So to see him back on the pitch so soon is a very, very positive sign. And looking fit, I think, Kusanov, he came in, tried a new position really that he's not really been seen as, which I definitely think he can play in quite well as that right back. I thought he settled into right back quite well. And I think he's got all the attributes for it. I think, comparing to Kyle Walker with his speed and his strength and his aggression. I'd give Kusanov a 6.5.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. He didn't really have much to do while he was on, but he's solid as usual. And then he came on with Sejani Reinders. We have mentioned in the past, outside of contributing to goals, Reinders, however you want to say it, he doesn't really contribute much to the team. Do you think that point stands tonight?
Yeah, again, he's a very similar. I'm not going to say similar to Marmoush because I also don't think that Tijani's in any threat of going in the summer. But yeah, I think Tijani, there is a big question mark really looming over him at the minute. I'm sure I'm not the only one, and I'm sure Pep will obviously know what he's doing with him here. And it does take time, he's only a couple of months into City, and this is what we've got to realise. Pep will obviously have a plan for him further down the line. But tonight, he is a bit concerning when he's not contributing to goals or assists. Defensively, he's lacking. I just think, he obviously did so much in Italy, but the Italian league is so different, that he just doesn't look anywhere near as physical as you need to be anywhere near the Premier League standard for a box-to-box midfielder like he's trying to be used in here. I also don't think he brought too much intensity to the game, which obviously is one of his bigger assets. I'd give Tijani I'd give him a 6.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. I can't recall him doing anything, to be honest, so I'll give him a 6. Moving on to the players that came on with 20 minutes to go then, starting with Ryan Cherki. I'm normally a big fan of his work, but tonight I thought he was pretty poor. At one point, he was trying to dribble out when Fulham pressed him in. They got a chance from that. That's the only real thing I recall him doing. So I'm going to give him a 5.5. What about yourself, Dan?
Yeah, I probably agree with you. 5.5 there. He wasn't anywhere near Cherki's standards, and look, he's a young player. He'll be learning from this, of course. But yeah, I think there's a time and a place to start running around dribbling through players, and that's definitely not when you're under the cosh with the entire team's midfield there. He did that in the under-12s, fantastic. But it's a bit of a rude awakening to coming into the Premier League. I'd agree. I'd probably give him a 5.5. He didn't have much to do. He didn't create much. Didn't bring much in, but didn't really need to.
Yeah, I completely agree. And he came on at the same time as Nico Gonzalez again. An low-key impressive performance tonight. I'll give him a 6.5. I thought he did his job quite well. What about yourself, Dan?
Yeah, obviously Gonzalez goes under the radar. That is the entire position of the 6.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I don't really recall much happening with him, which is a good sign. Because I think, for him, if you don't notice him, if you did notice him, it'd be a mistake or obviously a wonder goal. But yeah, he came on, he kept things ticking. Nothing mental happened whilst he was on the pitch. He looked relaxed, and it's really good to see him getting minutes again. To have him and Rodri fit is a massive thing. And to see him both getting minutes post-injury is a brilliant thing to see. I'd agree and give him a 6.5.
Yeah. Moving on to the quotes then, we will start with Pep Guardiola. First of all, on how the players looked fitness-wise after a tough game on Sunday, he said, For the players, a little bit of tiredness. 3 days is not much, but it is what it is. Do you think we saw that in the performance tonight?
Second half, definitely. I think first half, I think they were still running off the dopamine and adrenaline of winning at Anfield. I think that was always going to be the case tonight. But yeah, the second half, I think everything just sort of calmed down. And in that sense, I don't mind it because, you don't want to be going full throttle because that's when players get injured. The second half as fans in the ground, it was a bit tedious to watch at times, really. But you've got to really understand, the situation of that. They are going to be playing 3-4 times a week at times. So yeah, they've just got to take it easy and go into that cruise. And I'm thankful that this time we did it when we're 3-0 up, because normally we do it when we're 1-0 up, and we've seen it so many times where it's backfired.
Definitely. And then he said Erling Haaland was subbed at half-time due to a niggle. He said he didn't speak with the doctors. He doesn't know exactly what he has. It's just a disturbance, fatigue, or something along them lines. I don't know, he said. Haaland said, I don't feel comfortable at 3-0. With a lot of games he's had, having Marmoush on the bench, it's common sense to take him off. Would you agree with that, Dan?
Yeah, I definitely agree with taking him off. I think he's another player who he just needs his minutes managed now. We saw that run he went on, and he was played and played and played in that desperation that he scores a goal. I think with Haaland, he is best when he's fit. Marmoush has obviously come on when the game was done. But yeah, I think with Haaland, from what I recall seeing, he went down, something that he pinned. I don't know really, but it looked interesting. I don't think it's a major one. I think, as Pep said, it'll just be a niggle, and I think it couldn't have come at a better time, really. He's now got over a week off now. I can't see him being involved in Salford games. So yeah, I think that'll be a decent time for him to just go and sit in the sun for a few days, maybe.
Potentially.
I'd agree with Pep there.
Yeah, I do believe it was during the move for the O'Reilly goal. He played it out wide to, I think it was Semenyo, and he got caught. I can't remember who caught him. I think it might have been Joachim Andersen, but he got caught, and then apparently he was limping. That's what I got told. Anyway. And then on the partnership of Ruben Diaz and Mark Wehi, he said, I enjoyed watching them a lot. The personality, the character, I think both. They feel comfortable playing together. Really good. Do you agree with that, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I think him and Semenyo have been brilliant. As I said, since they've come in, I think that's definitely one to watch for going forward. I think it could definitely be scary. Not exactly for us them two up front. Yeah, really exciting times. I think this January transfer window is going to be absolutely pivotal, not just for this season, but I think in the history, in how City will perform in seasons coming up. I've not been this excited probably about a transfer window since the summer window of the treble season. And that says something, because that was some window. But yeah,
definitely.
I think with Guehi coming in, I mean, we know we've signed an elite centre back at a fraction of the price, and Semenyo again, he's probably worth a lot more than we got him for, and he's going to be absolutely brilliant. And it is so good to have a goal scoring winger back at the club.
Definitely. And then he said on Kuchinov, I saw a few minutes of him at right back, and he reminded me of Kyle Walker type in his prime. And I know he can do that. What's your thoughts on them comments, Dan?
I completely agree with it. I've said this from the moment that we've signed him. I thought Kuchinov would be an absolutely outstanding right back. And I think he'll show that. I mean, I think Kuchinov, he has the physical attributes, really. I think he's not going to be that Trent. He's not going to be that Nunes when he runs in and, he'll whip the ball. I think defensively he is so sound to have. He's so strong, he's so fast. I mean, he's absolutely rapid. He might even be quicker than Walker. We don't really know. But yeah, he can be a serious player at either centre back or right back or both, which is good to have. players who can do both.
Definitely. And then on the second half, he said it was better than previous second halves in the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure about that one. What do you think, though?
No. Look, I think the only second half in this entire calendar year that I think has been watchable has been Anfield. And even then, we switched off fully for half an hour there, and we looked really vulnerable for half an hour. I think the second half performances seriously do need to be addressed there, because it's all well and good having a fantastic first half, but the second half, you don't win games at half time. I think we're going to really struggle to push on if we do keep relying on our first half performances. So I think we're going to really have to kick on in the next few games, and we're going to have to solely really focus on how our second half performance is. Because I don't know what Pep's telling them to do at half time. I think that also, I don't know what's being said, but that also has to sneak into the talk, that you cannot switch off. And I think with the players such as Rodri, Bernardo Silva, Haaland, players have done it all for so many years, they've won everything. I think they will be able to clock, and they will be able to keep the standards running high, hopefully into the second half, because we're going to need it.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, on Bernardo Silva, he said he's irreplaceable. When Bernardo's not playing there, we have to play another system. First, he comes to make the press to the keeper, and after he comes to make the build-up with Rodri. And sometimes he goes to the right, like at Anfield, to make crosses or passes to win the game. This is Bernardo. What do you think about that, Dan?
I completely agree. I think, look, I wasn't exactly Bernardo's biggest fan last season, but I think this year, his importance has really, really shown through. I think, with him, it's almost as if, no other player in the world could get anywhere near Bernardo's level, even now. Yeah. And that's why I just think we cannot lose in this summer. He's so important, because there's no other player that can play every position on the pitch at all times. Because he is that man, and it is ridiculous, how he can play everywhere at once. People going about can say this, can say that. I think this is Bernardo Silva. Realistically, he is everywhere, and the quality that he can bring, not just off the ball, because obviously he's everywhere off the ball.
Yeah.
But even on the ball, as I say, if the ball's at his feet, he don't lose it. He's one of those players that you trust solely with the ball. So it's a massive player for us, and I completely agree with Pep that a different system has to be used, because at the minute you can use a system where you can just sort of leave Bernardo off the tactics board, because you know he's just going to be everywhere doing everything. And I think to find a player that can do that for 90 minutes every game for 3 times a week, I think it's scientifically, I don't know how good his body, but his lungs must be. But
I know,
wow, he is some special player, and I don't think we can lose him just yet.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with you there. And finally, Nico O'Reilly has said he grew up playing in midfield, so he knows the role pretty well, but he enjoys playing anywhere for the team. The team's amazing. Obviously, Ryan Aït-Nouri is doing very well at left back, so I don't mind if I'm left back attacking midfield or defensive midfield. It's always a good thing to have that, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, I think, to have players that can play that many positions, I think that just shows the quality of our squad. You could probably handpick 5 or 6 of our players that could play every position on the pitch and play it quite well for the majority of Premier League teams. I think, and O'Reilly's definitely one of them. Obviously he's another one that Pep's got. He's tinkered with. He's played in. I think we saw it first. In his first reign with Zinchenko moving in from attacking midfield back down to left back. He quite likes moving players from midfield to left back. We obviously saw the makeshift Fabian Delph did quite well in the Centurions. I think Pep and coaching players into being able to play left back. I think the thing that helps O'Reilly is his height. Defensively, I think he's so agile when he's on the ball. when he's in attacking midfield, and it's brilliant that 1 week he can go from left back to attacking midfield. I think I'd find that crazy. Again, it's just another strength that we have in this very scary looking City team.
Definitely. That's all the quotes we have to cover then. Finally, what is next for these two sides? Both sides are in action in the FA Cup fourth round at the weekend. City host Salford on Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff, while Fulham travel to Championship side Stoke on Sunday at 2 o'clock. It's a bit of a banana skin that for Fulham, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if I recall, Stoke have actually been in quite good form recently.
Yeah.
They're at the top end of the Championship, so yeah, it really depends if they want to go for it, because they could quite easily go out there, and we've seen teams like that, go out there in that position. But I think for Fulham, I think that the FA Cup should really be taken seriously. I don't really think there's much on for their season. I think Europe's basically done. They're safe enough. I think now's the time to really push for a trophy like Palace did. Try and copy what they've done. So yeah, I think that's a real opportunity for them to progress if they don't do anything silly. And I think our game against Salford. Well, you can never say a game is done before it's done, but I mean, our under-23s beat them 8-0 last year. If we play it, I'd like to see a heavily rotated team, certain players back in. I think it'd be good to see, Stones back in. Foden needs a goal like this. He needs to do something there. Maybe a few of the academy lads coming through. Maybe Makeda again. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to see them, and I'm hoping again, similar to Exeter, I'm hoping to get into double figures. And it sounds mad saying that, but I'd love another 10-0, especially against them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, of course, we should be back with a preview for that game where we will predict the lineup in that one as well. And then there'll be a match review. And then we've got a week off for the first time in a long time. City have no midweek game. So keep your eyes peeled for any content here. That is it for this video then. Everybody, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell below. And we will see you for the Salford preview. Everybody take care, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys, and come on, City.